Last week we learned from Dolly Parton. This week we have a few other celebrities to learn from. Did you watch the documentary on Tina Turner that is on HBO Max? It goes through. It's not quite as salacious as What's Love Got to Do with the music, the incredible movie that stars Angela Bassett. This is more of a documentary of what was going on behind the scenes, what was going on in her life. It does track pretty close to that, but it also talks about the impact of the movie and the impact of interviews and all the kinds of things that happened to her in her life before she broke back through. I also spent quite a bit of time on the lull in her career when she had no money and she was really hustling to take care of her kids and to pay the bills. So we're going to talk about Tina Turner, Tiger Woods, and the great Frank Sinatra in this conversation about resiliency. What I didn't know about Tina Turner, after she left Ike, when she got divorced. And if you don't know the story of Tina Turner, she was big with, there was the Ike and Tina Turner review. Ike Turner was her musical Svengali, I guess. And he was also abusive and beat her, and really pretty horrible relationship. And she got herself out of that relationship. But when she came out into the world, everybody knew her as Ike and Tina Turner. She didn't really have an identity as Tina Turner. But she went out, and the only way she knew how to make money, because she said she only had 35 cents when she left Ike, and he got everything. And then in the documentary, they show her playing all these small venues, just singing her heart out, doing kind of vaudeville kind of stuff, doing oldies, and just really just working her ass off to pay the bills. And the guy who actually rediscovered her went to go see her at a club in San Francisco. And he went to the early show where she was doing all the vaudeville stuff and kind of the antics just to pay the bills. And he was like, I don't know what to do with her. She was pretty dynamite whack when she was with Ike Turner, but he didn't know what to do with her. Then he went back for the 10 o'clock show where she was more raw and more rock and really was able to play to a 10 o'clock crowd. And he saw something in her. And that's when they made the iconic Private Dancer album, and where she broke out with What's Love Got to Do with It. And she started filling stadiums and became the biggest rock star in the world, just like she said she was going to do. She had that in her mind. She was telling people she was going to be the biggest rock star in the world, and she was going to fill stadiums with rock and roll. And she did it. But before she did it, she had that lull in her career where she did not know where her money was coming from. And she did everything she can. She played every small stage, and just that blue collar grit and working through. So from being on top to going all the way down to having 35 cents in her pocket to building back up to the biggest superstar in the world. Now, let's go to Tiger Woods. So we all know Tiger Woods was the best golfer on the face of the planet. The media followed her. He followed him. He was worth $1 billion. It was incredible. Tiger could do no wrong until Tiger got caught with his womanizing, his sex addiction, and everything started to fall apart. And then his game fell apart, and he could not win. And then he was having injuries, and he was going to rehab, and he was trying to figure out how to have a life. So he's Tiger Woods, and now he's just this cliche, this joke that is Tiger Woods. He's the butt of people's jokes. But he kept showing up at tournaments. And I've always wondered how, with all that humiliation, that public humiliation, how did he show up at tournaments while people knew he was going through rehab, while people knew what he did to his wife, while people knew his shortcomings and and his whole family life was just put out for everybody to see. But he kept showing up at tournaments, kept showing up at tournaments, kept showing up at tournaments. He kept losing, kept losing, kept losing. And then he'd do well for a little while. And then he would lose and lose and lose. How do you keep showing up when you were the best in the world? How does your ego hold it together? Right? Let's go back to Tina Turner. She just kept doing that blue collar work and, doing what she needed to do to these small clubs. Tiger Woods kept playing these golf tournaments. And then he won the Masters a couple of years ago. Tiger Woods won the Masters. When it looked like his game was over, his body was falling apart, he won the freaking Masters. Now, again, we know Tiger Woods has another chapter of tragedy in his life right now. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the perseverance to go through that dry spell and the resilience to build yourself back up and to believe in yourself and to keep going. Even if Tiger Woods never won the the Masters, or Tina Turner never broke through to become the biggest pop star in the world. They still had that perseverance. They still had that work ethic. They still had that drive, and they found it within themselves to do what they needed to do to keep going, keep going, keep going. Now, the third one, I didn't know about this. I did not know that Frank Sinatra, after he was the biggest pop star in the entire world, a movie star, that he just, like, was there anybody bigger than Frank Sinatra? Maybe Elvis, maybe Michael Jackson, right? Frank Sinatra, to my parents was what Michael Jackson was to me, what Beyonce is to everybody else today. Uh, Frank Sinatra went through a really bad dry spell. There was a time when the Rat Pack was done, the movies were done, the hits were gone, and he was just an old cliche, and he was playing small clubs again. And I was just talking to a friend of mine who is a musician, who was a musician in London, and he was talking about how Frank Sinatra, just at his lowest point, was playing just this dive of a place in London with a horrible band. And there's video on YouTube that shows him just yelling at the band because they're so subpar and they're such bad players. And he's Frank Sinatra, but he's not who he was. He's still duking it out. He's still singing on stage. He's not the chairman of the board anymore, and he's still doing what he needs to do. And it's 6 months after his lowest point, when he's with this terrible band in this dive in London, that he's back at Caesar Palace, and he breaks through and he has a great performance, and he's back on top, and now he's an icon. Right. So that happens to people over time, is if they can endure long enough, they become these icons. And now it's just perpetuates itself. Look at Betty White, right? Betty White can do no wrong because she just persevered and kept showing up and kept showing up and kept showing up and being brilliant at what she does. But, can you think of the world without Betty White? So back to for me, the lessons in watching Tina Turner, larger than life, just vamping it up in a small club just to pay the bills. Watching Tiger Woods with the just the steel will to show up on a golf course, do what he needs to do, raise his kids, go to rehab, do what he needs to do. Same thing with Frank Sinatra. These people just they're larger than life, but they're actually real people who just found their grit. So if you're going through tough times, now we just went through this whole year and a half with COVID and political unrest and all the things that we've dealt with. Think of those guys. Think of if they need what they needed to do, and in their public humiliation, where can you dig down and dig out of wherever you are? If you're, if this past year and a half has really dug you into a hole, how can you just take heart from their example to keep going, one step in front of the other, keep going, and find your glory on the other side? I'm here for you. I've done it several times. I know that journey of down at the bottom, the gum on the bottom of someone's shoe and climbing back up to the heights. So I'm here for you. Hope this is inspirational for you. I love you guys. Have a great rest of the day.